The vast purple oceans of Thiassa had always been home to the Vorthak. For millions of years, their coral cities sparkled like jewels beneath the waves. Elder Taijin swam through the ancient halls of Verthin, watching young ones play among the glowing reefs. Everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. The first signs were small. A few coral branches turned pale. Some fish swam in confused circles. The elders noticed their protective skin tingling in ways it never had before. But they thought these were just minor changes, nothing that couldn't be fixed with patience and care. Then the cosmic storm hit. It started as a strange light in the sky, beautiful but wrong. The storm brought invisible death, radiation that slipped through their world's weakening magnetic shield like water through a broken dam. Within days, entire coral forests began dying. The water itself started burning their skin. Elder Huansu, keeper of the old knowledge, called the first emergency meeting in centuries. Swimming to the great spiral chamber was dangerous now. The radiation made the outer waters deadly. Young, Vorthak could only venture out wearing special biosuits grown from the few healthy corals that remained. "The heart corals are failing," announced Huansu grimly. The heart corals were more than just pretty decorations. They cleaned the water, provided food, and even helped the Vorthak breathe. Without them, their world would become uninhabitable. Su Jin, a scientist who studied the space between stars, shared terrible news. "The cosmic storm isn't natural. Something massive exploded near our solar system. The shockwaves are tearing apart our planet's magnetic field. At this rate, we have maybe 2 years before everything dies." Panic spread through the chamber. Some Vorthak suggested moving deeper underwater, but everyone knew that would only buy them weeks. Others wanted to try adapting their bodies to survive the radiation, but such experiments would take generations they didn't have. Elder Minho proposed the unthinkable. "We must ask for help from other worlds." The chamber fell silent. The Vorthak had always been proud of their independence. They traded occasionally with other species but never begged for assistance. Their culture taught that asking for help showed weakness. "What choice do we have?" asked young Yunsu, her voice breaking. "My children are getting sick. The spawn pools are filling with poison. If we do nothing, we all die." The council debated for days while the situation grew worse. Reports came in from distant cities, more coral reefs dead, more Vorthak falling, ill. The radiation sickness started with purple spots on their shells, then weakness, then death. There was no cure. Finally, they made their decision. 3 diplomatic vessels would be prepared. Each would carry their most precious gifts: living coral fragments that could clean any poison, bioluminescent pearls that stored incredible amounts of energy, and memory crystals containing millions of years of oceanic knowledge. The preparations were heartbreaking. Mothers like Yun-Ah selected which coral children to send as gifts, knowing they might never grow back. Artists like Kyung-min carefully packed their most beautiful pearls, each one taking decades to create. Scientists like Do-hyun copied their life's work onto memory crystals, hoping someone would find their knowledge valuable. Elder Minho would personally lead the mission to the Zenthari Federation, known for their advanced technology. Young diplomat Chaewon would approach the Krex Empire, famous for their military might. Scholar Jiwoo would seek out the mysterious ethereal collective, beings said to exist beyond physical form. As the 3 ships prepared to launch, the dying coral cities gathered to see them off. Children pressed their faces against biosuit masks, trying to touch the ships one last time. Families sang the old traveling songs, their voices echoing through the poisoned water. "Remember," Elder Minho told his diplomats, "we're not just asking for help. We're offering partnership, our knowledge, our skills, our friendship, all of it, in exchange for a chance to live." The ships departed at sunset, when Thiassa's twin suns painted the dying sea in brilliant orange and red. Those left behind watched until the ships disappeared into the darkness of space, carrying their hopes and their most precious treasures. Back in the coral cities, the remaining Vorthak tried to stay strong. Parents comforted frightened children with stories of other worlds, Scientists worked frantically to slow the coral death. Artists created beautiful things from the last healthy materials, believing beauty could overcome despair. But in quiet moments, when the artificial lights dimmed, they all wondered the same thing. Would anyone out there care enough to help a dying species they'd never met? Would their gifts be enough to buy salvation? Or would the proud Vorthak become just another forgotten race in the vast, cold universe? The answer lay among the stars, carried by 3 small ships heading toward civilizations that had never known the beauty of the coral cities or the gentle wisdom of the Vorthak people. The first rejection came from the Zenthari Federation. Elder Minho's diplomatic vessel arrived at their capital station, a massive chrome structure that gleamed like a giant mirror in space. Everything about the place felt cold and artificial. Even the air tasted metallic. Commander Nalvex met them in a sterile white chamber filled with floating screens and mechanical whirring. His body was mostly machine now. Chrome arms, digital eyes, and a voice that sounded like it came from inside a computer. He barely looked at the dying coral samples the Vorthak had brought. "Biological materials," he said with disgust, prodding the corals with a metal probe. "Do you still use these primitive things? We replaced our oceans with synthetic solutions centuries ago, much more efficient." Minho tried to explain how the living corals could clean water and produce energy naturally, but Nalvex waved him away. Inefficient, unpredictable. Living things break, metal doesn't. He gestured at himself proudly. "I was once flesh like you. Now I am perfect. No illness, no death, no weakness." The Vorthak delegation showed their memory crystals containing millions of years of medical knowledge and ecological wisdom. Nalvex's mechanical fingers scratched at the crystal's surface. "Ancient data. We've already surpassed this with artificial intelligence. Why would we want old, natural solutions when we have superior synthetic ones?" When Minho mentioned their dying world, Nalvex actually seemed amused. "Evolution in action. Your species refused to upgrade yourselves. Now you face extinction. Perhaps next time you'll embrace technology over biology." The meeting ended abruptly. Security drones escorted the Vorthak back to their ship. As they left, Minho heard Nalvex telling his assistants, "Dispose of those organic samples properly. We don't want them contaminating our clean environment." Meanwhile, young diplomat Chewan faced the Krex Empire. Their warships surrounded her small vessel like metal sharks. The Krex were warriors who believed only the strong deserved to survive. Their homeworld was a fortress of black metal and red flames. General Rathak was a massive creature covered in battle scars. His throne room was decorated with weapons from conquered worlds. When Chaiwan explained about the dying coral cities, his laugh boomed through the chamber like thunder. "So your people are dying?" he roared. "Good. The universe has too many weak species." He grabbed one of the precious memory crystals. "What is this? Poetry? Art? Philosophy?" He threw it on the ground and crushed it under his boot. "Useless. Where are your weapons? Your battle strategies?" Chewan tried to show how the Vorthak's living technology could create powerful bioweapons, but Rathak sneered. "We make weapons that destroy planets. Your little coral tricks are toys for children." When she begged for refuge for the dying Vorthak, Rathak's expression turned cruel. "Why should we waste space on dying fish people? Once you're extinct, we'll take your oceans for ourselves. Empty worlds are easier to conquer than occupied ones." His soldiers laughed as Chewan's ship was escorted away. She could hear them betting on how long the Vorthak had left before going extinct. The third rejection was perhaps the most crushing. Scholar Jiwoo traveled to the edge of known space to find the ethereal collective, beings of pure energy who existed between dimensions. Their realm was a place of swirling lights and mathematical patterns that hurt to look at directly. The ethereal collective didn't have bodies in any normal sense. They appeared as shifting clouds of glowing particles. When they spoke, it was directly into Jiwoo's mind, their words arriving as complex equations and geometric shapes. "We know of your plight," they communicated. "We observe all. The death of your species is calculated. It is predetermined by cosmic forces beyond your understanding." Jiwoo pleaded with them, showing the precious gifts the Vorthak had brought. The ethereals examined the offerings without touching them, their energy forms studying every molecule. Interesting biological adaptations, they acknowledged. But intervention is forbidden. We maintain the balance of all things. To save one species disrupts the cosmic equation. Millions of other species have died before you. Millions more will die after. This is the way. When Jiwoo asked why they couldn't at least try to help, the ethereal's response was cold. Attachment to individual life shows limited understanding. Death feeds life. Endings create beginnings. Your species serves its purpose by dying gracefully. Do not resist the cosmic order. They sent her away not with anger, but with the same indifference one might show to a dying insect. The three diplomats returned to their dying world broken and empty-handed. The journey back felt endless. They had to watch their gifts, those precious corals and memory crystals, slowly dying in the ship's containers just like their homeworld. Elder Minho called the survivors together. His voice cracked as he shared the news. They turned us away. All of them. The Zenthari called us primitive. The Kreks called us weak. The ethereals called our deaths necessary. The silence in the great chamber was deafening. Parents held their sick children closer. Artists let their tools fall from trembling hands. Scientists stared at their useless equations. Young Yun-Su, her shell now marked with purple sickness spots, spoke what everyone was thinking. So this is how we die. Not with honor, not with purpose. We die ignored and alone. Outside the coral cities, the radiation continued its terrible work. The reef hearts beat weaker each day. The waters grew more poisonous. Time was running out and nobody in the great galaxy cared enough to help. But somewhere in space, a small human ship had just picked up a very faint signal, a repeated mathematical pattern that sounded like music, carrying a message of desperation from a dying world that everyone else had turned away from. Dr. Jin-Woo was having the worst day of his life, the coffee maker on the human ship. New Horizon had broken again, the atmospheric processor was making weird noises, and they were still 3 days away from their next supply station. He was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life. But so far this survey mission had been incredibly boring, just empty space and dead rocks. That's when his equipment picked up something strange. "What the heck is that?" he muttered, staring at his screen. The signal wasn't like anything in Earth's databases. It looked like math, but it also seemed to move like music. The pattern repeated every few minutes, getting stronger each time. Captain Sumie was in the middle of her daily report to Earth when Jin-Woo burst onto the bridge. "Captain, you need to see this right now. It's incredible. Dr. Kim, can't this wait? I'm trying to explain to headquarters why we've spent 3 weeks finding absolutely nothing interesting. No, really, this is different. Look at this." Signal. Jin-Woo played the transmission through the ship's speakers. Everyone on the bridge stopped what they were doing. The sound was hauntingly beautiful. It started as simple beeps but slowly became more complex, almost like a song. Hidden inside the music were mathematical patterns, growing more desperate, each time they repeated. "It's like they're trying different languages," said Communications Officer Yoon-jin. "First numbers, then symbols, then—" "Wait." She worked frantically at her console. "I think they're teaching us their language as they go." Navigator Kyung-ho checked his star charts. "Captain, that signal is coming from the Trappist system. That's where all those strange energy readings were detected last month." Captain Sumie made a decision that would change everything. "Alter course, full speed to Trappist. Jin-Woo, keep analyzing that signal. Everyone else, prepare for first contact protocols." As they traveled toward the source, the signal grew stronger and clearer. The ship's AI helped decode the mathematical portions, while the crew worked together to understand the message. What they discovered left them speechless. The transmission contained detailed holographic images. There were alien cities underwater, made of living coral that glowed with soft light. Beautiful creatures moved through the water, humanoid but with shell-like skin and large, kind eyes. Children played in underwater gardens while adults tended to the coral structures. Then the images changed. The corals turned white and crumbled. The water became dark and poisonous. Children lay sick in makeshift hospitals. The beautiful cities were dying. "My God," whispered Dr. Jinwoo. "They're showing us their world. It's dying." The message continued with more mathematics, but Chief Engineer Taemin figured out what it meant. "They're offering us everything," he said, his voice shaking. "Their science, their culture, their knowledge. All they want is help finding a new home." Communication Officer Yoon Jin translated more of the message. "They call themselves Vorthak. They're asking for sanctuary. Any sanctuary." The crew gathered in the common room to watch the full message together. The images showed the Vorthak's desperate journey to other alien species. They saw the cold rejection from the machine people, the cruel laughter of the warriors, the indifferent dismissal from the energy beings. "Everyone turned them away," said young crew member Yunho, tears in his eyes. "They brought gifts, offered everything they had, and everyone just said no." Captain Sumie called for a vote. "We don't have authority from Earth to make first contact, let alone promise refugee assistance, but we're the only ones who've listened to their message. What do we do?" The vote was unanimous. Every single person on the New Horizon agreed. They had to help. Dr. Minjun, the ship's anthropologist, worked day and night to create a response message. It showed Earth's blue oceans, human cities, and people working together. The message was simple. "We hear you. We want to help. We're coming." When they sent the response, the change was immediate. The Vorthak signal became jubilant. The mathematical patterns turned into what could only be described as joy. They sent back images of their people celebrating in the dying cities, children pressing their faces against coral windows, elders weeping with relief. The New Horizon reached the Vorthak homeworld 3 days later. What they saw broke their hearts. The once beautiful waterworld was sick. Radiation storms danced across the surface. The ocean had turned an unhealthy purple color. Only a few domed cities remained active, their protective shields flickering weakly. Captain Sumie opened a direct channel. "This is Captain Sumie of Earth Ship, New Horizon. We received your message. We're here to help." The response came immediately. A figure appeared on screen, elderly with kind eyes filled with disbelief. The universal translator worked smoothly now that they'd shared mathematical foundations. You came," the alien said. "You're the first to answer our call. I am Elder Minho of the Vorthak. Our world is dying. Our people are dying. We have so little time left." Dr. Jinwoo stepped forward. "We want to help you relocate your people. We have vast oceans on our world. Our government will need to approve everything, but we promise, we won't let your species die." Elder Minho broke down completely. "For months we've sent messages to every spacefaring species we know. The Zenthari called us primitive. The Kreks called us weak. The Ethereals called our death necessary. But you small young humans, you alone chose to listen." The crew of the New Horizon worked through the night, loading Vorthak refugees onto their ship. Each alien they saved was a family member, a teacher, an artist. They brought seeds from their coral gardens, samples of their living technology, children clutching toys made of phosphorescent shells. As they prepared to leave, Elder Minho gave Captain Sumie a gift, a small coral that glowed with inner light. "This is a heart coral," he explained. "It will live forever if cared for properly, like your kindness to us." The journey back to Earth would take time, but for the first time in months, there was hope. Humanity had done something the galaxy's greatest powers wouldn't do. They had listened, they had cared, and they had acted. And in the depths of space, word began to spread. The young species from Earth had heard the Vorthak's plea when all others turned away. The world changed the moment Elder Minho stepped onto Earth. News crews crowded around the landing pad as the first Vorthak emerged from the New Horizon. Their shell-like skin shimmered under Earth's sunlight, and their large, kind eyes showed wonder at seeing a healthy world again. Dr. Narration from the Seoul Marine Institute was the first scientist to meet them. She'd spent her whole career studying ocean life, but nothing had prepared her for this. "Welcome to Earth," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. Elder Minho moved slowly, supported by a special water suit that kept his skin moist. Through the translator, he said, "Your oceans, they're so blue, so alive. We'd forgotten how healthy water should look." Within hours, the Vorthak arrival was the biggest news story on Earth. Social media exploded with images of the coral cities and the dying Vorthak children. People couldn't look away. Young Sujin from Tokyo was one of millions watching the news. She was an ocean engineering student, working on her final project. But when she saw the Vorthak's plight, she abandoned everything else. "I have an idea," she told her professor. "What if we could build them floating cities? Ships that are like coral reefs?" Meanwhile, Dr. Huan Min from the Global Marine Council was having sleepless nights. The government wanted to help, but they had so many questions. Where would the Vorthak live? How many refugees could Earth handle? What about diseases? What about security? "We can't just make this decision overnight," he told the Emergency Council. "We're talking about relocating an entire species." But the people of Earth had already decided. Within the first week, something miraculous happened. Children at Riverside Elementary in California started a fundraiser, selling lemonade to help the coral people. Their teacher, Ginny Park, had shown them pictures of young Vorthak in the dying cities. "They're just like us," 8-year-old Kevin said. "They have families too." The lemonade stand idea spread like wildfire. Soon, kids across America, then Europe, then Asia were running fundraisers. They raised millions of dollars in small change and crumpled bills. Professor Kyung-soo from MIT worked through the night with colleagues from around the world. They were designing something unprecedented, bioships that could house thousands of Vorthak while traveling through space. These weren't just metal containers, but living ecosystems. The key, he explained to his exhausted team, is to make them feel at home. "We need to create artificial coral reefs that can grow and adapt." Marine biologist Yuna from Australia contributed a breakthrough idea. "We can use Earth's coral species as a base, then modify them with Vorthak genetic material. Create hybrid reefs that work for both our worlds." The project gained momentum daily. Artists like Min Jun from Lagos designed beautiful interior spaces that would remind the Vorthak of home. Engineers from Mumbai worked on water filtration systems. Biologists from Stockholm figured out how to grow emergency coral food supplies. Social media influencer Yunbi, who normally made videos about fashion, started documenting the global effort. Her first Vorthak video got 50 million views in 24 hours. "They're not just aliens," she said, filming herself at the coral cultivation labs. "They're refugees. They're families. They're people who need our help." Old rivalries were forgotten. Countries that had been enemies for decades worked together. China and the US shared technology freely. Russia and Ukraine collaborated on propulsion systems. Israel and Palestine jointly developed water purification methods. Dr. Tejo from the WHO worried about biological compatibility. "We need to make sure they're safe on Earth, and we're safe with them," he explained to the UN Assembly. The Vorthak gladly provided medical samples and data, showing remarkable transparency. The breakthrough came when young engineer Bora Kim realized they could use living ship technology, vessels that grew rather than were built. "The Vorthak do everything with biology," she said. "So let's make ships that are alive." Elder Minho was amazed by humanity's response. "On our world we have a saying," he told the gathered scientists. "The coral grows strongest when all species contribute. You humans understand this better than civilizations 10 times older." News anchor Dong Min interviewed families volunteering to host Vorthak refugees in their homes. "They have children, just like us," said mother of 3 Sumie. "If our kids were sick and dying, I'd hope someone would help us too." Research teams made incredible discoveries working with the Vorthak. Their living coral technology could clean polluted water better than anything humans had invented. Their biomedicines could treat diseases that had puzzled human doctors for centuries. The most touching moment came when young Vorthak Zinko, barely more than a child, offered to share their memory crystals with human schools. "We want human children to see our beautiful cities," she said through tears, "before they all die." Religious leaders across Earth held special services. Pastor Jin Ho from Seoul's Myeongdong Cathedral said, "This is our chance to show who we truly are. Not just humans, but beings capable of compassion beyond our own species." The UN General Assembly voted unanimously, something that hadn't happened in decades. Operation Deepwater was officially approved, with contributions from every nation on Earth. Within 6 months, construction began on the massive bioships. They were unlike anything ever built, living spacecraft that could maintain perfect ocean environments for centuries. Each ship was a work of art, with coral spires reaching toward the stars. Elder Minho, now living in a specially built facility near the Pacific Ocean, wept as he watched the first bioship take shape. "We sought help from the greatest powers in the galaxy," he told the assembled media. "They all turned us away. But you humans, you young, small humans, you're trying to save us all." The message was clear. When the powerful failed, the compassionate succeeded. Earth had become something incredible, not just a world, but a symbol of hope. And the universe was watching, wondering how a species barely a century into space travel had accomplished what ancient civilizations wouldn't even attempt. 18 months later, the greatest rescue mission in galactic history was about to begin. The 12 bioships hung in space like giant ocean drops, their coral hulls glowing with blue and purple light. Each one could hold 200,000 Vorthak safely for decades. Inside the ships, Earth's engineers had created wonders. Living coral walls grew fresh oxygen. Bioluminescent gardens provided food. Artificial tides moved through great chambers, making the Vorthak feel at home. The ships weren't just transport vessels. They were floating worlds. Captain Sumi Ai stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching the dying planet Thassa grow larger on the screens. The radiation storms had gotten worse. Only 3 coral cities still flickered with life on the planet's surface. "All ships report ready," announced Communications Officer Jin Ho. "The evacuation can begin." Elder Minho, now wearing an honorary human naval uniform alongside his traditional shell crown, spoke to his people through the ship's communication system. His voice reached every Vorthak still alive on their homeworld. "My people," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "Today we leave the world of our birth, but we do not die today. We live, because beings we had never met chose to save us when all others turned away." The evacuation was both heartbreaking and beautiful. Families carried their most precious belongings in bio-containers, photos stored in memory corals, traditional tools made from their ancestors' shells, children's toys that glowed with gentle light. Young Vorthak Yunbi helped load the elderly onto the transport ships. She had been just a child when the first human ship arrived, and now she served as a translator between species. "Thank you," she whispered to each human volunteer, "for seeing us as people, not as problems." Dr. Yuna, the marine biologist who had helped design the bioships, worked alongside Vorthak scientists to transfer their most important coral specimens. Each cutting represented thousands of years of evolution, carefully preserved for the journey. "This coral remembers the first songs of our people," explained elderly Vorthak scientist Kyung Min, gently placing a glowing fragment into a preservation chamber. "Now it will sing in your oceans too." The humans were amazed by how much the Vorthak could do with living organisms. Tai Jin, a young engineer from California, learned how to grow tools from special coral cultures. "It's like your whole civilization is based on gardening," he said in wonder. As the last transport ships lifted off from the dying world, everyone watched the screens. The ancient coral cities, some over 1,000,000 years old, were finally giving up their fight against the radiation. One by one, their protective domes flickered and went dark. Elder Minho stood beside Captain Sumie, tears streaming down his weathered face. "We are the last generation to see the birthplace of our people," he said quietly. "But thanks to you, we are not the last generation of our people." The journey to their new home took 6 months. During this time, something incredible happened. The Vorthak and humans began to truly understand each other. Vorthak children learned English, Korean, Spanish, and Arabic from their human teachers. Human children learned the musical language of the choral songs. Borakim, a teenager from Nigeria, became best friends with young Vorthak Jinsu. Despite having completely different bodies, they found they both loved drawing and dreaming about the stars. The ships became floating universities. Human doctors learned how Vorthak medicine worked, with living organisms instead of dead chemicals. They don't fight diseases, explained Dr. Narration. They invite helpful organisms to heal the body naturally. Meanwhile, Vorthak engineers showed humans how to grow buildings instead of constructing them. Architect Dong Juan from Brazil learned to cultivate coral structures that could repair themselves. It's not just building, he realized. It's nurturing life to create shelter. The destination was a water world called Kepler 442c, about 30 light-years from Earth. Humans had discovered it years ago but hadn't colonized it because it was almost entirely ocean, perfect for the Vorthak. When they arrived, the sight took everyone's breath away. The planet was like a giant blue jewel with small island chains scattered across vast, clean seas. The water was perfect for Vorthak biology. "It's beautiful," whispered Elder Minho. "Like Thiassa, but healthy, pure." The first settlement was named New Verthan, after their ancient capital. But this time humans and Vorthak worked together from the beginning. The city rose from the ocean floor, part grown coral city, part human-engineered marvel. Dr. Huan Su, the human coordinator for the settlement project, couldn't believe what they were creating. "We're not just building a refugee camp," he said. "We're building the first truly multi-species city in known history." The Vorthak shared their knowledge generously. They taught humans how to speak with sea creatures, how to grow food from seaweed, how to create medicines from coral extracts. In return, humans helped them adapt to their new world, bringing Earth species that could thrive alongside Vorthak organisms. A year after settlement, the first joint research station was established. Dr. Yunmi, a human marine biologist, worked side by side with Vorthak scientist Tae Woo to study the planet's native life forms. "We're making discoveries neither species could make alone," she reported to Earth. "The Vorthak understand life in ways we never imagined, and our technology helps them explore possibilities they never dreamed of." The success story spread across the galaxy. Other species, who had dismissed both humans and Vorthak, began to take notice. The Zenthari Federation sent observers, curious about this new alliance. Even the Krex Empire grudgingly admitted that the refugees had found a powerful protector. Elder Min Ho, now bearing the title of First Speaker of the Joint Communities, gave a speech on the 5th anniversary of their arrival. "We asked the galaxy's greatest powers for help, and they turned away. But the youngest, smallest species answered our call. They didn't save us out of duty or politics. They saved us because they recognized the value of life itself. Now, our peoples grow stronger together, showing the galaxy that compassion is the greatest power of all." The ocean world of New Kepler had become something unprecedented, a planet where two very different species lived, not just in peace, but in partnership. Children of both species played together in coral gardens and human-built parks. Scientists made breakthrough discoveries daily. Artists created beautiful works that blended Vorthak bioluminescence with human creativity. And somewhere in the depths of space, other species began to wonder. If these young humans could accomplish such things, what other wonders might they achieve when they helped rather than conquered?